Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are shiting on the Wheel of Time, and we are finishing up our discussion for book 11, Knife of Dreams. Knife of Daggers, sorry.
Can I get the name right? It's Knife of Daggers.
It's Knife of Daggers. We've renamed this book and it's so much better now. But before we discuss this week's topic, which is the ladies of this book, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I've been reading Light from Uncommon Stars by Ryka Aoki.
Okay.
And we're covering that next month, so I won't really talk about it. But I've been watching a lot of The Golden Girls on Hulu.
Yes, you have.
And it's a comfort show for me. So I was so sad about Betty White passing away that they had that as the recommended show on Hulu. And I was like, yep, I'm going to watch a bunch of this. So I've just been watching lots and lots of The Golden Girls and loving it.
I love it.
So great.
It is a comfort show for Laura. I do know that she has some t-shirts with the Golden Girls on it. So if you want a little bit of a peek behind the
face
curtains.
Masks now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because did you ever think about that? Like, I've thought about this before where I'm like, okay, now we all have like styled cloth masks that like, oh, we've got a leopard print one and a patterned one for this. And this is just my plain black one for maybe I'm the only one that has this many masks. I don't know. But
well, I mean,
you also sorts of different cloth masks, and I'm like, who would have thought that I would have been like thinking about all the different masks that I would need and wanting to like match them with things or have funny masks.
I get that. I don't know, because like I don't have as many as you do. I usually just use KN95 masks because I don't go out that often. And yeah, so I don't know. I don't have as many as you do. And I also
unfortunately don't have any KN95s. I have surgical masks and then I wear a cloth mask over top.
Yeah, I'm also like someone who I'm pretty basic when it comes to aesthetic. So I'm never going to have like cutesy ones. It's going to be
you won't have them that say quiet you trash with a picture of Blanche on it.
Exactly. I'm never gonna have those because I'm not like, I don't know, you know this about me, I'm not into like print t-shirts. I don't really have like, unless it's a random sweatshirt I made for myself that says bird bones on it, it's not usually on my radar. And I lost my bird bone sweatshirt, so I need to make another one. My roommate was wearing hers the other day and I was like, I need another one of those. But yeah, I'm just not like into that kind of print stuff. I'm a pretty basic classic person. So although I understand Laura definitely is going to wear stuff like that. And I've seen her in many an item.
I like funny t-shirts. I like colors and
I'm not judging you for that. But like, I don't know. I don't see as many printed things because like I'm not outside very often. And B, it's not really my brand of style. So but I'm glad you're reading our standalone February book because it's a good time to plug that. Everyone, make sure you have your copy and start reading for when we cover it for 3 weeks in February.
Another thing I would recommend too is if anyone wants to look into the author Ryka Aoki. I think that's how you pronounce her name. If not, please correct
us.
But I looked her up online and found some awesome YouTube videos of her doing some readings of her works. And let me just say, those were awesome. I think she was at like the San Fran Public Library that she was reading one of her books, maybe, or maybe it was just poems that she was reading. I can't remember, but she was so animated and getting so into it. It was awesome. And like, this is the type of book reading that you want to be at. So definitely check that out. It was just on YouTube. So
okay,
highly recommend. Hannah, what have you been reading and watching?
So I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. It is a romance novel featuring
everyone loves it.
Featuring the first son of the President of the United States and one of the princes of England. They fall in love. It's a little bit of an enemies to lovers. Very cute, very two intellectual young adult men who are falling in love with one another, who have some like back and forth at the beginning. I thought it was very cute. I can say that as a 30-year-old single woman, I think I've hit a certain amount of bitter.
Okay.
Where like sometimes I'm reading this and I'm like, you're 22, you're not that in love.
Ah,
Or like, yeah, everyone thinks this way when they're 22. I remember the man I loved when I was 22, and now we make jokes about him. Like,
so how I don't read a ton of romance, but how old are the characters usually?
it depends on
Are
the
they
books,
around
but
22?
it depends on the books you're reading. Like a lot of the books nowadays are sold more towards our age women. So a lot of times it's like late 20s, early 30s,
Okay.
just because that's usually the type. Casey McQuiston does scale because I've also read her One Last Stop book.
Mhm.
She often features bisexual characters, which is interesting. But she does skew a little bit younger for like early age adults finding themselves and finding love through it.
Mhm.
And I guess like it's
That
just
makes more sense, I guess, if that's what the character storyline is, that they'd be younger.
yes, like they're usually younger. Casey McQuiston is 31. She's my age.
Okay.
She just turned 31. So I could see where like a lot of romance novelists are usually older, so they're going to write
Mhm.
towards skew older. She is my age, so her skewing younger isn't the worst thing in the world. It's just very funny to me when I'm reading a pure romance novel and it's like
Okay.
they're falling in love together. And I'm like, that's really cute that you get to have this young love, but like you'll break up, right? I
Mhm.
feel so bad about it because like you were married younger. Like I know people who like found the love of their life when they were very young. I don't
Mhm.
know why I'm so bitter about this, but like it always just makes me laugh when I'm reading it. I'm like,
I
sure,
do.
okay.
I feel like I was younger, but not as young as like some of the people that I know. Like I know some people that were married at like 18. And then if you think about like people who were from like a different generation that are older, they a lot of the time were married at like 16.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just like because I went straight through to law school and all this
Mm,
stuff, like I mostly know people who like grew into the marriage where I think like if I had gone into the work field after we were in a sorority where lots of women got engaged during
during
college.
college. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think living in Chicago has like changed me where now I just don't see that as the norm. So it kind
Right,
of
right.
breaks my brain when I'm reading about it. And then I feel bad because I'm like, I know people who've done this. Why am I like so like, oh God,
Mhm.
whatever? It's just like, Hannah, calm
I look
down.
back on that now though, and I think like, oh wow, it does seem
They
like
were
odd to me that
babies.
people were getting engaged at 19. But
Right. I don't know. It was just very funny to me. I'm like, yeah, 19, 20, 21. Like when people are like, I am so in love with them. And I'm like, yeah, sure, for now. And I'm just like,
mhm.
no, some people do find the love of their life when they're that young. I also think like oftentimes when you're reading this, it's also people, and I don't mean to be like elitist at all, but
Mhm.
sometimes when you find people who are like getting multiple degrees, I'm like, oh, you're not done growing yet. Like,
Sure.
and so some like they discuss like getting secondary degrees and stuff. And I'm like, oh, you'll probably break up. Like,
Mhm.
and again, many people find who they love and stay with them through these multiple degrees. But like,
Sure.
I just know that the majority of people end up breaking up. So I'm always like, oh, okay, whatever.
That's
So,
like how I feel about like when I see movies where they're dating in high school and then they decide to keep dating when they're going to colleges on opposite ends of the country. And I just don't think it's going to work. All the boys I loved before.
right. And like even in All the Boys I Loved Before, the actress has been very vocal about like, yeah, they probably made it work for like 3 months. And then they came home from Christmas and they realized it wasn't working and they've grown as people. And
Yeah.
then maybe they'll meet later on. And I do think like a lot of the young adult stuff that's coming out recently has them meeting up later on in life. And again, I hate
Mhm.
that trope that I've read in books where it's like, the first man I ever loved is the one who really knew me. And it's like,
That's
no, he
Hallmark.
didn't. Yeah, that's I no thank you. But yeah, I do feel a
I
little bit
always
bad
thought
about
you
how
guys would get together. You're always so
right.
close in high school.
I guess this is to say that a lot of times in romance novels, you're bringing your own baggage to the table, much
Mhm.
like when you're in a real relationship with someone, you're
My
bringing
other
your
question
own
is, how did
baggage.
that book handle the royal romance type thing? Because I feel like that's a thing that I've seen a lot in crappy movies where there's like a royal prince who is the love interest.
Well, I mean, there's definitely layers to it because it's also talking about like the royal prince of England who's like supposed to be in line to the throne and he is gay.
Mm.
Like there's a lot of underlying like, oh, of course we're progressive when it doesn't come to people who need to procreate and make more children. Like there's a lot of underlying homophobia that comes into play in the book, which I think is probably realistic when you're dealing with like PR issues. I will say that like what I liked about this book was like the underlying issues were not the main parental figures ever. And I think that that's a good thing to have in books where it's like, it's not a big deal. Like you could make it where it's like, my mother is so evil, and usually it's just like, and I guess small spoilers for Red, White, and Royal Blue, skip 30 seconds. Like the mom is the president of the United States and she's never not supportive of her son. Like she questions who he is with, but she's never like, oh God, no, this is going to ruin my campaign. And I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't need to read an entire storyline about a mom accepting her son for his sexuality. So I liked that about it. And I thought it was a very cute novel. It is fun. Again, my only thing was like, and I even told my roommate, like, they're 22. And she was like, I just aged them up in my head. So I think there's like, when you're in your 30s reading these books, you're always like, okay, whatever. So I very much like the book. Everyone loves this book. I wouldn't say it's like the most spectacular romance I've ever read. My favorites are Beach Read and the Brown Sisters. I gave you Beach Read to read, so get on that. But
I'm waiting for warmer times.
But in the book, it's not like during the summer, really. It is like during like a wintry. It's not wintry, but it's like not.
I think the cover is just rude because it's very cold in Illinois, and the cover is them on a beach, and I just find that rude right now. So
I apologize. I mean, it's a beach in Michigan, and you read all about people's thoughts on this.
I'll bring it up because I messaged Hannah about this. So Hannah brought me this book and my dad glimpsed it and he was like, oh, because he saw the author's name and we have some relatives with that same last name. And so he was like, you should see if she's from a certain area or whatever. Well, I didn't really ever find out like where she was from or if that was the tie or whatever, but I went to her website and there were frequently asked questions on her website. One of them was about like why Beach Read takes place in Michigan. And apparently people have complained to this author about the fact that this book takes place in Michigan.
Guys,
people didn't know that there were beaches along lakes.
Michigan
it's like, only like Florida and California. I don't know.
Guys, Michigan has many lakes with many beaches. They like have I've camped near the dunes in like Michigan.
I mean, so does Wisconsin. There are lots of places.
There's a beach in Chicago. Like there's like there are many beaches
all over the world.
The fresh lakes.
People don't it's not just Hawaii, California, and Florida. And I feel like that's maybe what
the Chicago beaches.
I feel like maybe the readers were just expecting this book to be set in Florida? Or California or Hawaii. And then when they're like, it's Michigan, what? That's not romantic. Michigan is cold.
A fun little spoiler for you. In this book, there is something that you and I used to do as a local pastime, which is line dancing. So
line dancing?
That is a plot point of one of the novel points. But so, yeah, I read Red, White, and Royal Blue. That was a lot of fun. I'm going through like some short stories that's taking me longer because this Lord knows I'm not a huge fan of short stories. I think these are spectacular. I'll get more into them, but it's not going to be published until next month anyway, so I'll look up the name later. And then I'm also reading Jade City by Fonda Lee. I love it a lot. I think it's very good, and it's a little bit slow going just by keeping all the characters in play and everything. But it's a book where it is a fictional city where people who are called green bones can use jade on their body to like augment their skills and make them faster, stronger. And it's about a family who kind of leads one of the like green bone people, and they're having conflict with one of the other leading families. And like one of the sisters was like, got her education in a Western country and she just came back. So she's trying not to wear jade, and her brothers are the leaders of this group. And there's like conflict with her grandfather. And it's very interesting and I like it a lot. But it's taken me a while to get through. So I may have to put it on the back burner so I can finish A Light from Uncommon Stars for our standalone February.
Have you started Light from Uncommon Stars yet or no?
Not yet. I will be reading that this week. And then for TV shows, I finished What We Do in the Shadows, which was it was so good, but like I was just so sad for Guillermo in the last episode.
I was confused. I was like, are they a couple now? Is that what they're saying, that they're in love?
I don't think so, but I just want Guillermo to be happy. He's so cute. He's so sweet and so complicated. I just love what they've done with his character, and like all the stuff with like
he's finally
Colin,
like kind of standing up to them, and I loved that for him.
And like Colin Robinson, I loved what they did with his character, and like
I love it because that creepy baby thing with his face just crudely pasted onto that.
Like spoilers abound for What We Do in the Shadows in this moment, but people should definitely watch it and skip this section of our podcast if you haven't. But I love that storyline. Like my cousin and I were very worried about what happened in like the second to last episode. I freaking like, and in the
Colin Robinson is so funny.
He's so funny. And like I loved in the second to last episode where like Laszlo's running around trying to celebrate Colin Robinson's 100th birthday. Like my roommate was like, were they ever friends? I'm like, no, they've been friends in the last couple episodes. And then it like ends up like you discover why he's pushing so hard for it.
Trying to
figure out trying to become friends with him. And I was like, oh, this is really well done. Like
felt bad for him.
He felt so bad for him, so he's trying to make him happy, but it shows him like slowly torturing Colin Robinson in the process. I just really loved the episode, and then like he's the one who kind of like stays behind to help. It's just such a good show. It's so smart. It's so freaking well done. I just love that show.
If you watch any episode, watch the Jackie Daytona episode.
Laura rewatches
that is my favorite
Daytona
one.
Episode.
I've watched it 3 times. I think it's hilarious.
She's like texting me about the Jackie Daytona episode all the time.
I watched it once, and then right after I watched it, I was like, I have to watch this again. It's just great.
It's such a good show. And like, oh God, my roommate and I make jokes about it all the time. Like we'll repeat just random things that Nadia says. And like, I loved it in the episode where he's like, I'm going into a deep sleep. And he's like, we have to celebrate Colin Robinson's birthday. And he's like, I don't give a flying fuck about that. Like the way they're so dismissive. It's just the funniest show out there. Like, it's so freaking good. I love it so much. So I've been watching that. And then I also started the How I Met Your Father.
Oh, sequel. I watched that too.
It was fine. I mean, I'm gonna continue to watch it because I really like Hilary Duff. I liked the little nod they had to the old show. I like that like they have shifted it a little. I think their jokes need work.
I think they're trying to make changes where they were needed, but I think that it's still very, very raw at this point where it needs to kind of be worked on a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think it needs a little bit of work. It's a little too clean almost. And they don't like, some of the best things about How I Met Your Mother was the flashbacks and the running jokes.
Sure.
And that takes time because like even if you rewatch, like anyone who's like, oh, the show's so bad, I urge you to go rewatch the first like 4 episodes of How I Met Your Mother. And it's not what it was by season 6. Like, it's so different. So I do think like some of the stuff that's coming out in this one, it's like, oh, that makes sense why there are some kinks to iron out. So
also go watch Glow on Netflix because the guy that plays Jesse is in that, and Glow is a really good show.
I feel like I know Jesse from other shows. Was he in Private Practice?
I have no idea. I just know Glow with Allison.
Not Private Practice. Oh my God, what's it called? No, it wasn't Private Practice. He was in something else. Jeez. I just pulled it up. Oh, it was Private Practice. That's what it was. He was like the hot guy in the show that Addison was in on her Grey's Anatomy spinoff. So I remember him from that. And apparently he was also in Veronica Mars, but I never got to that. He's been in a ton of stuff. But yeah, so with that said, watch How I Met Your Father. It's fine so far.
Go watch Glow. It should have been renewed for a third season.
I'm sorry, Lord.
Netflix, come on.
I know Netflix is like canceling all the good shows.
I know.
And giving us like nothing to work with anymore except for Cheer season 5,000. No, there's only been 2 seasons. I was gonna say
there's only 2 seasons of that, but
I'm
we could have done without the second season of Tiger King and without the second season of Cheer, and give us another season of Glow and another season of Julie and the Phantoms.
That's like, okay. So I also recently watched I'm Not Okay With This, which was like a dark comedy starring like 2 of the kids from the movie It. And it was so freaking good. It was it's like based on a graphic novel series based from the same guy who did The End of the Fucking World, which is also an excellent Netflix show that only needed 1 season, but they gave it 2. And then I'm Not Okay With This ends on a cliffhanger where they changed the end of the graphic novel to get a season 2 out of it. And then they canceled it because of the pandemic. And I'm like, if it had ended, it would have been like a fine season to like watch, but it's so freaking good. And then Netflix just cancels everything good. So people go watch I'm Not Okay With This and like be sitting with me. And the fact that it should have gotten a season 2. And it was one of the most well done dark comedy series that was like interesting and complicated. And I'm so frustrated because I watched it last week, like all in a row. I did not intend to watch all 7 episodes, but I sat down and couldn't stop watching it. And they're only like 20 minutes long. Like they're not long at all. So it's really easy to watch all 7 episodes, and they should have given them a season 2.
Netflix put it together.
I know. It's just so freaking
they've done that
frustrating.
To so many good shows.
I just get very upset with it. I'm very upset by this because
it's
I
one
like
of those
looked
things
it up.
where I'm like, why are they constantly like starting new shows and then just canceling them? I just put a little more time and money into developing these shows for a few seasons.
Well, and that's like also with the way that Netflix is, like, you guys make so much money that if it doesn't get immediate traction all the time, then they're just like, I guess we're not having a second season. Because I've seen so many people who are like, I love Julie and the Phantoms. It's one of the greatest shows. And they're just like, no, it was fine. And it's like, what makes them continue with the show? Because like some of these shows
there's
are just
also got to be
stupid.
something to like letting it be on the streaming service for a while to let people discover it, because people aren't going to immediately just jump on board with a new show, especially when they don't advertise a lot of them super well. Some of them they do advertise well, but other ones they're not advertising that well, and you can't just expect it to have the same following as The Witcher immediately.
Right. Well, that's
like they've advertised the crap out of Bridgerton. That's why it got so many views. But I'm like, well, and not only that, but I mean, they gave it so much time on billboards, and you saw it on different little ads on the side of your computer and everything. So I just feel like I don't see that with a lot of other shows. I never saw anything like that with Santa Clarita Diet or Glow or Julie and the Phantoms. And those are all shows that I kind of came to late.
Right.
And so there's got to be some of these other shows that people come to late and then really love.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, if you're going to pick up a show that like has a certain audience, that like it's a great show for what it is, sometimes you have to be willing to sit with it and like not have it be the best, biggest thing that's like so shiny. Cause like someone talked about that with the show, The OA, where like season 1 was like fine, but then season 2 was like amazingly critically acclaimed. And they only asked for 5 seasons of that show. And by season 2, they were like, not enough, and just like canceled it. And like, that's one of those things where even with like one of my favorite shows ever, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, was like, we do not have the viewership. Give us 4 seasons. And like, it kept winning all these awards, but it did not get viewership.
Right.
But like, people were willing to be like, okay, this is a different type of show. It's not going to be for everyone, but it is so well received. Why wouldn't we just eke out those things for 4 seasons. And they did the same thing with Jane the Virgin, which was also like a critical darling, even though it didn't have like as astounding viewership. But now I know the people who have watched all of those shows and like freaking love them. So sometimes it's just like, why don't you just invest in these shows or let them go somewhere else? Because like Netflix is such a
CW, because apparently that's where they let things kind of simmer.
I know. So it's, I mean, CW went bankrupt, so maybe not, but
I didn't know that. Too bad.
Yeah, it went bankrupt last week. But like it's hard because like CW, it's a different structure. Like the actual like the way studio structures work is really weird, and I don't want to get into it. But
I don't care to
that's
know, so.
Also because CW spent a lot of money on superheroes and probably didn't need to do that. And then they also made trash like Riverdale, the show that never ends. Rant over about the Netflix and the corporate structures of TV shows. Watch How I Met Your Father. Should we dive into it?
Let's talk about Knife of Daggers.
Let's talk about Knife of Daggers. Let's start
with a conversation that you and I had with Veronica earlier about how we are just a little bit tired of Robert Jordan constantly torturing women. And that's the only people that seem to be tortured.
I mean, Rand has been tortured, but
why do the women constantly have to be tortured though?
The women constantly have to be tortured. They have to have their space violated. They have to be imprisoned. And this is to be noted, like, I understand that, like, again, we always talk about Matt as the one male victim, but when you have one male victim who is dunked on, but then you have it happen to all the other women in the books in varying ways, it's not progress. Like, right. And this is something we've talked about before. Robert Jordan wanted to make a feminist society, but when you do that in a patriarchal society, which is the world we live in, it is not progress to say, well, I can do it in that world because women were in power, because we live in this world. And again, we have made comments about the fact that like Tuon is the one person who believes in slavery as a Black person. It's not appropriate and not centered either. Like, we live in this world. We've talked about this before. It's like building a structure where it's like, oh, well, it's like I made a TV show that stars all Black people, but the savior is still a white man. Like, that's not progress. That's just you having your cake and eating it too. Like, it's saying you can't contradict, like, or you can't have
like people trying to make themselves feel better by just, I don't know.
Yeah. And we just have a lot of issues with that. You can see it. Like, I didn't mind it as much in the Egwene character that she's being tortured in these books.
You said that, and I kind of disagreed because I was like, I just feel like there's better ways to approach her plot line. And her character growth has just been, not her character growth, but her storyline just seems so out there for like the journey to become Amyrlin's seat, and then the way that she's treated as Amyrlin's seat. It just seems very unnecessary, and this just seemed like throwing another layer of that on there where it seemed unnecessary. But you disagreed, so
no, and you're allowed to see it that way. I think my only and I think what you're saying is very valid when I take into consideration how she was treated as Amyrlin's seat. Like, the way her people treat her is terrible. And I hate that because it's, again, showing like it's her and Matt walking around being like, I've been an effective leader for 5 books. And people are like, they're children. And it's like,
it's also hard for me because I really like that character too. Yeah. So and I have some emotional attachment to it. So,
and that's fair.
There's that.
I think with Egwene, we at least, and I guess her mirror for me, who I have an issue with and how she's treated in this novel, is Fael. So Egwene is a fully realized character. So when she holds her head up high and she says, I'm not going to let you take me down, I'm going to use this as a power move to convince others I'm stronger than you. I'm like, okay, well, there's agency in this. And she's at least putting herself in this position where she, like, people are like, we want to get you out. And she's like, nope, I'm more effective here. yes, they can hurt me, but I've trained, like, and this is the best thing about Egwene is she's learned from all different people. Our favorite thing about Egwene is Egwene goes to the kinswoman and she's like, you guys have a purpose. She goes to the Aiel and she's like, they have a purpose. And she learns from them and takes the best parts of them and puts them into herself. That's the best part of Egwene is the fact that she's not sitting there going like, well, Aes Sedai are the best. We're just the best. She's like, no, that's ineffective. And that's obviously how we've lived, but that's not how we should live. So when
she definitely sees all the different facets of their world that they're in and wants to improve upon it.
Right. And Robert Jordan oftentimes like has women have capabilities like this, and then he doesn't utilize them at all. So watching him actually utilize someone's best qualities is at least it's effective with Egwene, where it's like, okay,
I still feel like she's underutilized though. And
that's fair.
Even but I feel like she is probably doing a lot more than a lot of the other women characters. We'll get to Elaine. But I just feel like she's still being underutilized as a character.
I would agree with that.
Maybe that's me just, again, being upset with the way that the other Aes Sedai treat her. That I feel like they purposely don't let her have things.
Right. And I think that that's very fair. I think in this book, I was at least taking her away from her other Aes Sedai, where it's like, well, at least they're listening to her now. She at least has some agency. So I'm going to enjoy it while I can.
Right.
And sometimes, and we've shown that Laura is often the person who's like, Hannah, look at all the other books. And I'm like, oh, right. I was along for the ride in this book. So.
Yeah. I can't get over it the way that she's been treated in other books, I guess. And that's
fair.
I'm holding a grudge. So
and Laura is the grudge holder of the two of us. Yeah. I can't hold a grudge to save my life.
I will hold a grudge.
I know you will. And I can't remember who I was mad at yesterday. So I thought it was effective in this novel to use it because she's been trained to do this. Like she's been trained to be Amerlin C, and we finally get to see her do that. And we don't have to watch her be undercut by a bunch of people. Like she's using her God-given talents and her training to become an effective leader. And I enjoyed watching her do that, where it's like, oh, now I understand what the Aiel were telling me all this time. I can accept the pain and use it to my advantage. And then you watch like all these women be like, oh my God.
It didn't have to like be something that she had to have pain inflicted upon her to be able to do these things. Though I guess
I think it bothers me less with her because in this world, both men and women do technically get tortured. And at least with her, she got to have a good personality outside of it before she got tortured. Like it wasn't her only thing, which is why I would
she was tortured early on.
That's fair. But like I would juxtapose her with Fael, where Fael was just ragged on and ragged on and ragged on. Ugh. And the only reason we're supposed to like her is through her torture.
Yeah, we're supposed to pity, which let's dive into her now because it's, I will preface this by saying I have never really liked Fael, but now I just pity that character. And it's because the way that Jordan has written her storyline now is we're supposed to change our opinion of her because she's been tortured. And
which is not effective. Okay. That's not a good way of telling a woman's story.
Give her some actual character growth.
And we have discussed different ways on the pod and off the pod. We have discussed ways of treating Fael that would have led her to a better character
ways
growth.
That we could have written, or he could have written this.
And he decided to take a very cheap man's way out of saying, let's watch a woman get tortured in a way to have empathy for her. And that is not fun. And it's not okay. Like, and this is why I'm like, well, with Egwene, at the very least, we know who she is as a character before this happened. And we know why she is capable of taking this on.
That's
with Fael, it is like, watch us torture her and threaten rape upon her. And don't worry, she'll still be clean when she gets out of this. She won't even have kissed the guy who was trying to coerce her into kissing him or having a sexual relationship.
Don't worry,
with him.
It'll be fine. Your husband won't care. My husband will care.
And it just seems like there is no comeuppance for what happened to her.
Yeah.
And like, here's the thing. If Fael had been raped, it wouldn't have been her fault. If she had been coerced into having a sexual relationship with a man she didn't want to have sex with, which is also rape. It wouldn't have been her fault. But for some reason, we have to watch all the torture and coercion happen and then say at the end of it, but don't worry, she's still pure. And it's like, well, that shouldn't matter. It shouldn't. And we shouldn't have to feel empathy for someone through watching her have this happen to her. Like it just wasn't handled deftly. If you want to tell a woman's story about that, like it goes back to like, I understand you want to write a specific story, but should you? Like
exactly. And that's what I was just going to say. I feel like he wanted to go down this path of showing some of these different things and how people react to trauma, but I don't know if he was the person to do that, because I don't think he quite understands.
He doesn't understand like
the way to handle these things. I don't know.
He doesn't because like there's horror and guilt that goes into this. Like she was going to leave 2 of her soldiers behind, like who are like, oh, we believe in Gaishain, so we're going to stay behind. There is grief and blaming, and there's also like blaming of oneself for being caught. Like there's so many emotions that we don't get to even look at because of how Robert Jordan treats Fail. He treats it as a way for us, again, I'm going to say this, as a way to gain empathy with the character. And that's not okay. So you're right.
I would have rather just like kept on like not liking her as a character. Honestly, like if she would just continue to be a bad character, I would have felt better about it. I hate to say that, but
no, but I think you're also right with the fact that now you and I, it's not even that we like Fail, it's that we pity her. And that's also not the way to take a character like this. Like, even with Nynaeve, like I have a ton of criticism for book Nynaeve. I can still respect who he wanted her to be as a character because of what he's done with her. That is something we could have had with Fail, but it felt like he got 11 books in and he was like, oh, people hate her. Let me fix it. And it's like, that's not how to fix it. Right. It's treating the reader with kid gloves. It's treating her with a lack of respect. Like, I just don't understand it. And like her again, I just don't trust Robert Jordan the next couple books to deal with, like, she watched a man who was trying to help protect her be killed at the hands of her husband. Even if he was a coercive a-hole, she still had feelings towards that man. I'm not saying sexual. I'm not saying romantic. She had a modicum of something for him. Sure. And we could watch her wrestle through those. And I think a woman would have her wrestle with, like, what does it mean that I'm grieving this man's death? I feel guilt over this. I don't think Robert Jordan will have us do that. I think it'll be like I just don't like what he did with Fail in this book.
No. How'd you feel about Nynaeve in this book?
I felt bad for her. Again, I don't love 90. I don't even remotely really like her in the book series. But Robert Jordan just made me feel bad for everyone except Egwene, even though Egwene was like the most tortured. Like I was like, well, at least Egwene has agency and Egwene is working in the novel and she's choosing this and it's a way to empower her. With Nynaeve, I'm like, what did you want from her, Robert Jordan? Because it feels like you don't even know anymore.
It is a little confusing at this point because her character is having a lot of ups and downs as far as she's strong and she's a healer and she's going to help do this. Wait, nope, she's not going to actually cleanse this. Wait, nope, she's not going to be the one to cure this. She can only partially do it. Wait, but she's actually the strongest Aes Sedai that we have around.
Oh, wait, but she's not. She's not anymore.
Never mind. So it's becoming a little bit hard to follow. We're supposed to be with her.
I feel like Nynaeve was going to be this really great character that was going to be divisive. And at this point, I just, again, feel sorry and pity for her for like, wow, you've been sidelined by Robert Jordan. You don't get a plot. You're married. So what is there left for you? Like, you're going to get pregnant, I guess. You're going to like charge people into battle for your husband, but he's definitely going to be the leader of them because Robert Jordan isn't going to care after that. Nynaeve's one of your favorite characters. So how do you feel?
I I guess just like I said, it's hard to follow where we're supposed to be with her right now. I've really loved Nynaeve all throughout, and it's just confusing at this point. I don't know how to feel about it, I guess, because in the last couple of books it just hasn't really felt like the same Nynaeve, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think it's the same Nynaeve anymore. I just don't think we're working with the same character.
I don't have as strong of feelings about the way that Nynaeve has been treated in this book as I did about Elaine, though, because I thought that was a really poor way to handle pregnancy, and I just am getting really tired of the pregnancy is.
I think she's going to be pregnant for the rest of the book.
I mean, I think for the rest of the series, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for the rest of the
babies
series.
like right at the end, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like it's one of those things where he's playing it up like she's, I don't know, like got immense pregnancy brain, and then she can't do anything, or like her powers have been taken away from her.
Helpless.
It's just, it kind of makes me sad because she was one of the characters that we were supposed to think was making good decisions and had some background in political things, and I just think a lot of that has been taken away. She makes dumb decisions now. She rushes into things. She can't do any of these things that she used to be able to do as far as her power. I'm confused again, and I just don't like that trope that pregnancy kind of sets people back.
It's the dumbest trope in the world.
I don't like
it. Guess what? Women do many, many things while they are pregnant. I also found myself frustrated in this book, especially because our biggest complaint with Elaine is like, oh, he keeps telling us how strong she is. He keeps telling us how capable she is, and she never gets
really
there.
Ditzy.
And in this book, especially, I realized, oh, a more capable person with a woman in this character would really be using her. Because, okay, throughout this entire book series, and apologizes if this is a little bit scattered, like what we just talked about with Egwene, the Aes Sedai have been in power for too long, and they've let it get stagnant, and they've let their own power metastasize into this toxic environment of it's our charge and no one else's. And Egwene is the breath of fresh air who comes in and is like, no, we're going to learn from other people and bring in what they have. Elaine could have been a foil to Egwene.
She could have been the one like wanting to remain tied to the old ways,
because that is Elaine. Elaine is like, I'm supposed to be in charge. I was born for this. I'm meant for this. I'm going to take charge. And that's a lot of her character. If you look under all the layers of crap we have piled onto her, is a woman who believes she is in charge because she was born for it. That is an interesting dynamic. And we get pregnancy brain. Like, I was so frustrated in this book because I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Because like Elaine's mistakes are directly tied to how capable she thinks she is. And she keeps pushing herself in over her head because she's not fully capable of doing that at that moment. So it's like she went into the Civil War and now she has to rely on other people to get her over the finish line. And what a kick in the pants that is when you believe you have every right to be there based on how you were born. That's so interesting to watch someone deal with those dynamics. And instead we get like, oops, now I'm going to go win a war. When I was going into battle. Like, I just don't understand why he took one of the most interesting characters who like many people love because she's supposed to be diplomatic and capable, and like take away any interesting part of her storyline.
Here's my thing. I wonder this about Robert Jordan, if he is more of an idea person than anything, because I think I have thought this about a lot of characters, like what you're saying about Elaine. He makes interesting characters like Perrin and then kind of just throws away what could have been with them. And it's like, I wonder if he's just really good at coming up with ideas and then isn't able to like develop them.
Yeah, well, and like people have said that where like Robert Jordan forgets the storylines that Robert Jordan was writing.
Yeah.
And he like you're right. I think he's an ideas guy. I think he's like,
It
oh,
might have
wouldn't it
been one of
be
those things where
interesting?
it almost like if he would have co-authored the whole thing, maybe the whole
Mhm.
series, it maybe would have been something that I would like, okay, this is more effectively done because we had different perspectives that came together to write these characters.
Well, and that's the whole thing is like a lot of the series is like it doesn't make sense. Like you and I are befuddled so often because it's like, didn't we watch Matt like get these people out of Abu Dar like single-handedly, and then all of a sudden it's like Tu-Won's like, oh my god, he can lead an army, and it's like
Wait, you
that
get
doesn't
that?
make sense. But like if there was better conflict of like, oh yes, you can lead us out of Abu Dar, but you're beneath me because I am part of a royal family and you are just a soldier. Like that's an interesting story of like, of course, anyone can lead an army. And then it's like watching him convince people. And she's like, oh, he's a strategist too. He's not just like bullheaded. And like Elaine, where it's her and Rand, and she's like, you need to listen to me, Rand, because I know what I'm doing. I was born for this. And Rand is sitting there like, no, because I don't trust people in power because they keep trying to screw me over and they have conflict that way instead of like Elaine being like, Rand is so hot headed. And it's like, that doesn't make sense based on what we've watched. Like, there are legs to the arguments here, but Robert Jordan isn't standing on them. Like, he's over in the corner laying down instead. So like, in this book, especially because we finally got past all the horrible slog of it all, I just felt frustrated for like Nynaeve and Elaine, it's one of those things, and Faile.
Like the past couple books, I feel like just this book was significantly better. I will say that people are just gonna like listen to this podcast and be like, oh, another episode where they rag on this book. Hooray. But I will say this book was significantly better, in my opinion. I enjoyed listening to it and I thought it was much better, but there was just so much to make up from with the last three books. I feel like being just nothing to work with, that it was really difficult for him to make any sense out of a lot of these storylines, and it at times just didn't fit.
No, I agree. And like Laura and I did genuinely enjoy this novel.
we did enjoy it.
And we've joked, and like, I guess that's the whole thing. We always end on the women. Critical. We always end on the women. And I feel like the women are the most sensitive of topics. Yeah. Frustrating to us. So like, listen to the other 3 episodes if you think we're ragging on this episode or on this book.
The plot episodes are usually fun.
Yeah, the plot episodes were a ton of fun. I think even the boys episodes, like we were like, oh, did he lose his train of thought? Like, but I think that's what we're getting down to is like Robert Jordan by this time has lost his train of thought about these characters. And some of the most interesting political intrigue aspects were just like dropped off the face of the planet. Yeah. And we don't know where they went, but we miss them. And I think it's also frustrating because we do like or have divisive opinions about these characters. Like, Laura has always been kind of like, what the fuck is the point of Elaine? And I'm always like, journey's out. I'm still deciding. I'm like 11 books in. And in this book, I was like, God, she could have been great. And now I'm just disappointed. Like, and Nynaeve, I'm like, oh my God, I have so many issues with Nynaeve. And then I'm like, oh God, but look at that poor character. What has she become? Like, now it's just a like, I actually
also, know Min. What do you
oh my God
feel about Min? This is another character that I'm disappointed with because I was like, it started off and I had really high hopes, and now it's just become she just follows Rand around secretary. As a companion.
She's Rand's secretary.
Doesn't do anything really.
So I recently wrote
there's so much potential with her visions too, to the auras that she sees, to have that continually keep going and to give her more storylines, but she's underutilized. So many of these characters are underutilized.
So I wrote a review on our pod for Before They Were Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. And I wrote a critique of the women. And one of the women who's one of the main characters, I said a huge issue is her own character growth is directly connected to a male character.
Yeah.
And that is Min now. Like Min is directly connected to Rand, and she cannot exist outside of Rand anymore. And that's it. That's all we have for her now.
I mean, honestly, there's nothing to really hate about that character except the fact that she's not doing more.
I am now convinced that Min is the love of Rand's life, and that's it. Like,
they have companionship and friendship and also physical relationships. So I guess I could understand it.
Like, that's all she is now. I don't think he actually loves Elaine or Avienda at this point. Like, Avienda did nothing in this book either. She left Elaine. That's it. Poor Avienda, who's also like interesting in theory, got nothing on her. But like, I literally don't think Rand loves Avienda or Elaine. I just don't buy it. He impregnated Elaine. Good for him. Whatever. She wanted his baby. I guess that's cool. But like, I genuinely think he loves Min because he takes her with him, and he wants
to be with her. And
and they have conflict, and they have a sexual relationship outside the one time he slept with the other two. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're sad every time they have sex, like the first time. Like, we're just comforting each other. Remember that as a reason to have sex. Like, Min is just nothing now. Like, Min and Nynaeve, the closer you are to Rand's orbit, the more your personality drains.
Exactly. So many characters, actually, that happens to them, because that kind of happened to Perrin a little bit too when he was around Rand.
And Egwene called off them ever being together in book 3, and she's been flourishing.
She became far more interesting.
Yeah. Outside of Rand, she's become a better character.
The more connected you are to Rand, the worse your character gets. Matt went away from Rand, became far more interesting.
And Matt like struggles to stay outside of Rand's orbit. Matt knows, guys, he's just really, really lucky, and he doesn't have to go near Rand anymore. This theory holds so much weight.
That's a good call, though.
And Lan has always been like buddy with Rand, and he hasn't been interesting for forever. So I'm like,
well, I guess not since the first book, when we kind of set him up to be like an Aragorn, and then they're like, never mind.
But in the first book,
we're not going to do anything with it.
Remember, he got tossed away from Rand and Matt's storyline, and he, Moraine, and Nynaeve were the most interesting characteristics. This is true, guys. This is fact. The closer you are to Rand's orbit, your personality gets drained real quick.
And really, Rand by himself, not as interesting as the other characters. So
Rand's kind of a nothing burger of a character anymore. Yeah. Like, he's just the dragon reborn. He is the chosen one, and that is it. I feel like outside of this main cast character, like, I don't want to talk about Avienda. She's boring.
There was nothing to talk about with her. There's the only one that I feel like of note that I can think of at the moment is Tuon, and I really hate that character.
Can we talk about how problematic it is that Tuon is the one person of color in this book series?
I hate this. It's
bad, guys.
I also hate their relationship. It doesn't make sense.
Well, they're married now.
They don't love each other, and quit telling us that they do. They don't.
Well, even in the book, they say they don't love each other, because Matt goes, "We don't love each other. Why did you marry me?" And she says, "Do you think you have to be in love to get married?" So the book even knows they're not in love with one another.
Their relationship is so bad.
It's so bad. It's toxic. It's gross. Like, having a woman who like throws a hissy fit where it's like, I want to go to a hell. I want to see you get beat up and potentially stabbed so I can prove you're a man.
And he's trying so hard to do things for her just because it was prophesized that he would be with her. And it's like, it doesn't make sense to me, because he was always so skeptical. But once he found her, it's like, no, I'm going to do whatever it takes to please this woman that is actually quite awful. But I just, why?
It's bad. I think Tuon's character is probably the worst of the series because because of her character and because of the implications of her character.
Yes.
I think everything about her is bad, and I have so many problems with it. So, and I've heard spoilers. Don't think it gets better. So,
hooray!
Robert Jordan lost his train of thought. This is his final novel of the series that isn't co-written, so that's pretty big.
Yeah,
I just all the women characters.
Bang, really. But
what's the other Amerlin seat's name? I forget. No. Oh, no. The other one, the red one.
Oh, Elida.
Elida. Like Elida is also like just insane now.
She's just been basically gaslit.
She's crazy now. Like,
yeah.
And there were so many interesting themes with Elida, like power corrupts.
Mm-hmm.
But then like all of a sudden it's just like, nope, not that. She's just crazy. And it's just like, oh, awesome. Glad we got here.
It's one of those things like I always thought it was kind of, I guess not always, but I thought it was kind of like a situation where the other Aes Sedai were like gaslighting her into thinking that she was crazy.
She was in power. Yeah. I don't know. But and she's still crazy because she's like
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like she doesn't have control of anything.
I don't know.
It feels like she never had control over anything. Like,
yeah.
And she's the one who staged the coup. So I just don't understand how.
Yeah, it's interesting that he decided to just kind of toss her to the side after that buildup.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of these things don't make sense. And it'll be weird to see how they're put back together in the next book, or if they are, or if he just continues to be like, we're not going to talk about that one, we're not going to mention this, we're just going to leave things where they lie, or if we're going to try to pick these up and put band-aids on them. I don't know.
Well, and it does sound like
some of them
I've heard some hints that like Sanderson didn't understand certain characters, so he really derails a couple, and then the ones he does understand, blame him. Yeah, I know. But I also heard
what a difficult job.
Right? It'll be interesting. You guys will have to follow along in March when we get back.
All I can say is I know when I'm reading the next book, I'm going to have a lot more leeway for Sanderson than I give Jordan, because I just feel like he is coming in at such a
disadvantage,
a horrible stage of this series to try. You said people will criticize him for not understanding some of the characters. I don't think that is an easy thing to do at this point. You can't understand a lot of these characters because they've been all over the place. How could you jump in this series and I don't know. It's going to be really, it had to have been extremely difficult for him, and to try and just like pick up the pieces and end this series neatly. What a feat.
I agree. Yeah. So with that said, I think we could probably wrap up this conversation because I'm not sure we have anyone else to discuss about. I mean, Varian is shady. Catsiane is doing nothing again besides like spanking Rand.
Yeah.
Because Catsiane is also interesting, and then he does nothing with her. So
yeah, Catsiane is like replacement Moraine kind of, but
Moraine is alive. They're gonna go get her in the next book. She and Tom, her most beloved or whatever she wrote in that letter, that I was like, oh my God.
Never got a clue about that ever.
They have two conversations and it's like, my dearest Tom, and it's like, your dearest?
Really?
When?
Okay.
When was he your dearest? Old people forever.
Nothing like those unrequited crushes.
How Hannah spends most of her life having unrequited crushes and then judging 22-year-olds for finding the love of their lives.
Just don't send a creepy letter to someone.
Damn it, Laura, you should have told me that before last week.
It's too late. You used the U.S. Postal Service.
Oh, I regret that letter now. Whoops. My dearest blank space.
Dear Henry Cavill.
We've had two conversations. Henry Cavill, that is an unrequited love.
2 seasons of The Witcher.
I haven't finished season 1.
And seen many of your Instagram photos with your
I also have not done that. So for someone who says that Henry Cavill is like,
maybe I'm talking about myself.
And I think you're talking about you. I'm in love with the idea of Henry Cavill. It kind of sounds like you're in love with Henry Cavill.
Maybe I'm the creepy stalker.
Because Because my letter would be like, Henry Cavill, you don't understand. From a very young age, I thought I should marry a man who looks like Clark Kent, and you starred as him, so it fits. But you're like, you know,
I watched The Witcher.
I watched all of The Witcher, and I've been following you aggressively on Instagram. Laura's
positive about that girlfriend?
Are you positive about that husband, Laura? Because right now.
Oh, funny.
How do you feel about naps, Henry Cavill?
Actually, he's not really my type, but
are you sure?
He likes dogs, so I like dog lovers.
He's a sciencey, dark-haired man, and that's my type. So what you gonna do? Okay, well, guys, again, next week we are starting Light from Uncommon Stars for our February standalone. So make sure you're reading that. And then join us back in March when we pick up on our conversation of Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson's Wheel of Time.
Also, just wanted to shout out Literature and Lo-Fi for next month, February, she wrote. And we will be reading She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker-Chan.
And we will be covering that the last week of February with Literature and Lo-Fi then. So come join us for that conversation and pick up that book and a couple of the other ones he's reading, because he's reading 8 different books, I believe, that all look amazing.
He's on Instagram now.
So. He's on Instagram. So post on Instagram and Twitter with February She Wrote hashtag to show that you guys are joining in. And it's not limited to just the books he's reading. It's any book with a person who uses the she, her pronouns.
Right.
So you get to follow along anytime you read a book with someone who's using she, her pronouns. So just do that. And please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to get people to join us in all of these wonderful conversations about Henry Cavill and Nynaeve and everything in between. And
but
you
not
can follow
too
us.
on.
But not Tuon. We don't talk about Tuon, much like Bruno. No. But it was her wedding day.
We were getting ready.
And she said, here's my husband
3 times. Thunder. You telling the story or am I? I'm sorry,
Bruno said it looks like. Okay. And then follow us on Twitter and Instagram. He told you to follow us at our OWWR pod. That's our pod. And just don't talk about Bruno, okay? And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.